Let me ask you a simple question. If you ran your household the way these companies run their businesses, spending more than you make, borrowing money you can't pay back, paying yourself first while the bills pile up, and then you walked into a government office and said, "Bail me out, the gas prices got me," what do you think they would say to you? Exactly. But if you are a corporation with a lobbying budget and a congressman on speed dial, suddenly the rules change. Suddenly the taxpayer becomes your personal safety net. And then, and this is the part that should make your blood boil, after we catch you, after we save you, after we hand you billions of dollars of public money, you charge us more. Stay with me, because today we're going to follow the money. Let's establish what a bailout actually is, because the language gets sanitized every single time this happens. A bailout is not a loan from some abstract government account. It is a transfer of wealth from working people who pay taxes, like you and me, people who do not get bonuses when they perform well and do not get rescued when they don't, to corporations and the executives who ran them into the ground. That is what it is, full stop. And we have done it over and over and over again, not once, not twice, as a policy, as a system, as a feature, not a bug, of how this economy actually operates. The technical term economists use is moral hazard. What that means in plain language is this. When you remove the consequences of bad decisions, you guarantee more bad decisions. If you know the net is always there, you stop caring how far you fall. That's not capitalism. That's socialism for the rich, and rugged individualism for everybody else. Let's start with the one that's fresh. Spirit Airlines just filed for bankruptcy again. This is their second bankruptcy in 2 years. Now, I've already heard the talking points: jet fuel prices, post-pandemic travel disruption, competitive market pressures. Let me stop you right there. Every airline flies in the same sky. Every airline buys from the same fuel market. Delta is operating, Southwest is operating, United is operating, American is operating. So if fuel prices broke Spirit Airlines, why is everybody else still in the air? Because fuel prices are a condition. Management is a choice. Spirit built their entire business model on a razor-thin margin with zero cushion. Strip out every amenity, nickel and dime every passenger, pack planes wall to wall, and tell me what happens when anything goes wrong. There is no buffer. There is no reserve. There is no plan B. They tried to merge with Frontier, fell apart. They tried to merge with JetBlue, got blocked on antitrust grounds. And when that fell through, they had nothing, because the merger wasn't a growth strategy. It was a survival strategy dressed up as expansion. And during all of this, while the operational performance was a disaster, while customer complaints were stacking up, while the balance sheet was deteriorating, executives were still collecting compensation packages. The first bankruptcy was supposed to be the restructuring, the reset, the second chance. They used it to reset the clock, not fix the business. That's not bad luck. That's leadership failure. And I don't want to hear Representative Garcia or anyone else stand in front of a camera and blame jet fuel for a management problem. That is an insult to every taxpayer who never got a bailout when their business struggled. Now let's go back to 2008. Because if Spirit is a lesson, 2008 was a masterclass in how this system really works. The banks didn't stumble into the financial crisis. They engineered it. They took mortgages they knew were bad, loans given to people who couldn't afford them, documented with paperwork that was often fraudulent, packaged them together, slapped a AAA rating on them with the help of compliant credit rating agencies, and sold them to investors around the world. They collected fees at every step, massive fees, and bonuses, enormous bonuses. Then it collapsed. And when it collapsed, they went to Washington and said, "If you don't save us, the entire global economy goes down with us." Congress passed TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief Program. $700 billion authorized, hundreds of billions deployed. And here is where I need you to pay attention, because this is where the receipts live. AIG, the insurance giant at the center of the collapse, received $170 billion in federal assistance and then paid out $165 million in retention bonuses to the very division that caused the crisis. When the public outcry hit, they said those bonuses were contractually obligated. Contractually obligated with our money. And not one major Wall Street executive went to prison. Not one. The Department of Justice prosecuted one mid-level trader. Just one. The architects of the largest financial fraud in American history collected their bonuses, kept their jobs, and watched the working class absorb the consequences. Foreclosures hit 3.8 million in 2010 alone. Black and Latino homeowners were disproportionately targeted with predatory loans, disproportionately lost the homes. And the banks that targeted them got saved. Who bailed out those homeowners? Nobody. General Motors and Chrysler, two American institutions, two companies that had decades to see what was coming. The fuel efficiency standards that Congress and the regulators pushed, they lobbied against them. The investment in hybrid and electric technology that competitors in Japan and Europe were making, they delayed it. They built their profit model almost entirely around trucks and SUVs because the margins were higher in the short term. And when gas prices spiked and the financial crisis hit simultaneously, they had no product to pivot to. Their lineup couldn't compete. Their cost structure was bloated and their balance sheets were already stressed. GM filed for bankruptcy in June 2009. The federal government provided $49.5 billion in bailout funds. Chrysler received $12.5 billion. The United Auto Workers, the actual workers who built the cars, were asked to take wage cuts, benefit reductions, and pension concessions as a condition of the rescue. The executives negotiated their exit packages. Let me say that again. The workers took cuts, the executives negotiated. And within a few years of the bailout, GM was posting record profits. And executive compensation was back at pre-crisis levels. The workers who took the cuts, many of them never got those concessions back. Now here's the part of the story that never gets told in the same sentence as the bailout, and it should every single time. After the banks got bailed out, did your credit card interest rates go down? Did the fees on your checking account disappear? Did mortgage lending get more generous for working people? No. Rates went up. Fees multiplied. And the banks posted record profits within 3 years of nearly destroying the global economy. After the auto bailout, did car prices come down? Did the American consumer see the benefit of saving those companies reflected in affordability? No. Car prices have increased dramatically year over year. The average new car price in America right now is pushing $50,000. After every airline bailout and restructuring, did ticket prices get more consumer friendly? Did the baggage fees go away? Did the legroom come back? No. Fees proliferated. Seats got smaller. And now you're paying extra to sit next to the person you bought a ticket with. We saved these industries, and they charged us for more of the privilege. So let me bring this home, because this isn't just about Spirit Airlines or Lehman Brothers or General Motors. This is about a principle, a value, a question of who this system was built to serve. There is a class of people in this country for whom failure has no permanent consequences. They have access to bankruptcy courts that protect their assets while they restructure. They have access to lobbyists who translate their crisis into legislation. They have access to politicians who reframe their incompetence as a national emergency. And they have access to a treasury, your treasury, that becomes their backstop when the bill comes due. And then there's everybody else. The person who couldn't make their mortgage payment in 2008 didn't get a bailout. They got a foreclosure notice. The small business owner who couldn't survive the pandemic didn't get $170 billion. They got a PP loan, if they were lucky. That barely covered 2 months of payroll. The family that is carrying credit card debt at 24% interest, paying $4 for gas, paying record rents, watching the grocery prices climb, they don't get a rescue package. They get a lecture about financial responsibility from the same Congress that wrote the check to AIG. So I'll ask the question that nobody in Washington seems to want to answer. Who bails out the consumer? Who makes the call? Who passes the legislation? Who holds the press conference and says, we are going to rescue the working people of this country with the same urgency and the same resources that we deploy every time a mismanaged corporation comes crawling to us? I'll tell you who. Nobody. Because the consumer doesn't have a lobbying budget. The consumer doesn't have a PAC. The consumer doesn't have a former Treasury Secretary sitting on their board. The consumer has a vote. And the question is whether they are paying enough attention to use it. And moving forward, whether or not they'll have it at all. Watch the pattern. They privatize the gains on the way up. Bonuses, stock buybacks, executive compensation, shareholder returns. They socialize the losses on the way down. Bailouts, restructuring, taxpayer exposure, public risk. And then they raise your prices and call it the market. It's not capitalism. That's a system designed by the people at the top for the people at the top, with your money as the cushion and your silence as the permission slip. Do your research. Check the receipts. And stop letting them change the subject. I'm Keith. And this is Keith Speaks.